Hello again, I'm Christopher Brandon from the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
And I'm George Williams. I'm the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System.
And this week we bring you part 2 of our massive project on working with the circulation rules. This week we are talking about our unembiggening the circulation rules. We are part of koha-US. If you visit koha-us.org, you'll find a great selection of resources here. We encourage people to join the membership so that you can take part in shaping what happens with koha-US and be a part of our conferences. We have a conference that will be coming up this year in Lawrence, Kansas. And you will find all of our resources on the Learn page, including our video playlists. And as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be doing part 2 of our previous episode covering circulation rules. And George, why don't you go ahead and remind everybody what we talked about last week, and then let's move forward with part 2.
Yeah, before we started recording, I told Christopher we need a voiceover like previously on Star Trek: The Next Generation or Deep Space Nine. That would be awesome if we had somebody that could do some voice acting and do a really good job at that. So what we talked about last week and what I'm going to continue on is the circulation rules table. So last week we added a button that collapses this information over on the left-hand side of the screen. And we added highlighting to highlight the row in the table. And we added sorting the columns, so you can sorting the table, which is not very impressive on a table with only 2 rows in it. But when you got a lot of circulation rules, that becomes really useful. And like I said last week, I've got some libraries that have close to 100 circulation rules, so this is important to me. The other thing that what we're going to work on this week is making this table, which if you watched last week's video in full, I have 3 screens on my computer, and this covers at least a portion of all 3 screens if you widen the table, if you widen the browser out to full width.
Look like about 2 1/3 screens for you.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of data, and so it needs a huge amount of space to work. And so if you haven't seen the previous parts on how to add the button and to make the rows sort and to highlight the rows, that's look at last week, the video from 2 weeks ago. This part I'm going to start off with adding some CSS. So what we need to do to make this next part work is we're going to create a way that you click on the top of the column in the header row, and it will squeeze that, make it smaller. And I found that the easiest way to do this with jQuery, it was going to take a lot more jQuery if I put everything in the jQuery. So what I figured, though, is if I created a class, rather than applying all the rules, all the CSS style through jQuery, if I just created a class and then added and subtracted that class when I clicked on the header row, that would be the fastest way and the cleanest way to write the code for this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add that CSS.
George, you always have class.
Yeah, somebody tell that to my wife. So what I've got here is I just plug this in, and this is some CSS, and it is setting up a rule for a class that I'm calling hide rule. And so when the hide rule class is in a table head or a table cell, it's going to add these 3 components to that It's going to create this CSS style for it. And so what it's going to do is it's going to say the width of that table cell is going to be 15 pixels. So tiny, not very big at all. And then it's going to take all of the text from that cell and it's going to move it 9,999 pixels to the left, which if you're in a browser and you have things that are a negative value, their position on the screen is a negative value. If the text indent is 9,999 pixels to the left of the screen, then you're not going to see them. It's the most effective way I could find for hiding those things and making them remaking them visible quickly, because I'm just pushing them off the side of the screen where you can't see them.
Okay.
So that's the first part, is to create this hide rule class.
So the table has a footer as well. Does that fall within the table data or the table header?
Yes, it affects the table footer as well.
Okay.
And I think it's because the I don't remember what the HTML code is, but I think that the top row, even though it's called the header, the cells are designated as TH, and the bottom row, I believe they're also designated as TH.
Okay.
Even whether they're in the header or in the footer, there's still the class on those, or the HTML attribute for those is still TH. So it does make them collapse too. And so this next part here is jQuery, and I'll plug this in here and go through and describe it really quick. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the word hide to the header of each column. So this is just saying it's finding all of the header rows, and it's finding the text that's already there, and it's adding the word hide in a span, hide column in a span underneath the text that's already there.
Okay.
And then the next thing it does is we create another function. And this is a click function, and we're saying whenever we click on one of those table head, anything where, and we're doing this only in the T head is the top row, and the TH is the individual cells in that row. And we're saying whenever we click on one of those, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to index the cells that are in the table. And to make it easier on my brain, this is one of those places where in HTML, the table cells are indexed starting at 0.
Okay.
And so in order to make it easier for me to remember which one is which, I'm finding the index of the cell and I'm adding 1 to it so that they start with 1 instead of starting at 0, because that just makes it easier for me to keep track of them.
Okay.
And then the next thing I'm doing is I'm creating a variable with the cells where I'm getting the cell information plus the index number. And then the next thing I'm doing is I'm saying wherever I have that variable, I'm going to toggle this class called hide rule. So if I click on that table header, it's going to index the cells and it's going to say all the cells that match this. If it has the class, I'm going to remove it, and if it doesn't have the class, I'm going to add it. And that's what this next part does. It says if it has class hide rule, then I'm going to put a plus sign where that content in the top in the header was. And if it doesn't have that, I'm going to take all of the content and remove it. And then once again, I have to do this window trigger resize,
Right.
so that the sticky header will stay stuck to the top of that table. So let me reload this and save that and reload this. And so now I've got all my hide columns. And so if I click on hard due date, it disappears and I can just get this plus sign. And the table shrinks down and the table head sticks to the top of the.
So you're triggering off of any place in the header, not just the word.
Yeah, not just the word. That was easier to do, but you know, they all say hide column. And if you hide everything, you can finally get this table down to one page.
Of course, you can't see anything, but
No, you can't see anything, but you know, at least you can say, I mean, this is kind of a pointless exercise, but you can get the whole page with no scroll bars. As soon as you click on one of them, you're in danger of scrolling off the page again. But and because this is done every time the page loads, you have to there isn't a way that I found, an easy way to make it so that you can always, so you can just say hide this one and never, and don't reload it when I reload the page. But if you show full width, and you know, maybe if this decreased loan period is one you never use, you can, you know, a lot of times I will find myself, if I'm on my laptop, I will, and I just want to deal with loan periods, I can hide a bunch of other things to make it so that I've got less scrolling to do, or no scrolling to do.
right.
So because this has to be applied every time the page loads, there's something else we can do though. And that is, I've got a whole bunch, what I did is I wrote out the code for pre-hiding columns that I never use.
Are you basically telling it to go ahead and trigger, like you've clicked on these columns?
More or less. So actually, in the website that I gave to Christopher with all of my personal notes on this, not in the, this isn't in what's going to be on the Koha wiki, but this is in my personal notes that Christopher has the address for, that he's going to add to the video when he does the editing. I've got the information for every single column. So if you wanted to hide the patron category by default, all you would have to do is take these two comments out from in front of the $sign. And that would by default hide that first column. The ones that and so I've got one of these for each column in that entire table. The ones that I currently hide by default are the days mode. We don't use that. I've never had a library that's asked me to change we only have like 2 items system wide where the unit is not days, where the unit is hours. And so I hardly ever use that, so I've just got it hidden by default. I also decrease loan period. None of our libraries use that. Cap replacement price at the cost of the item. So I've got a bunch of these that I've got pre-hidden. And if you wanted to use this and pre-hide a bunch, you can, if you want to use them, you just add 2 slashes before the $sign for that row. And that's going to turn that from active jQuery into a comment. And if you want to use it, if you want to hide it, you just remove those 2 slashes and that'll take the comment out, and so it will be active jQuery. So when I load my circulation table, by default, I've got this one hidden by default, which is the days mode. The decreased loan period I've got hidden by default. All of these, I think, are the ones dealing with or cap replacement fines, cap replacement fee at the cost of the item. I've got all the ones related to suspension are pre-hidden. All of the automatic renewal stuff is pre-hidden, and the article requests and the rental discount are hidden by default because we never use those. So this means when I open this up on my laptop, I don't have so many things to hide. And so if I get rid of that column on the left, I've really only got like 1 and maybe 1.5 screens worth of data left. So I've really shrunk that down from something that takes more than 2 screens to look at, and shrunk it down to something that's less than, that's only like about 1.5 screens.
I see so much potential for this because you know, I'm a I love presets. And it's like I could see, okay, maybe I could add a button up at the top. If I click a button, if I wanted to expand everything without having to go through individual ones, I could click a button up at the top, and I could just change all those um,
Yeah, you could just, yeah, that
classes.
would be really easy to do.
And so it would expand everything. Or if I was going to be working on a smaller screen like a laptop, I might have a more restrictive set of columns that are hidden, and I would have a button for that. So yeah, this is
Well, and I've got one last thing to show you. One other thing that I do, since I do have, I spend over 50% of my time working here in my office at the Nichols headquarters. And I do have 3 monitors currently. I'm hoping somebody discards a 4th one, so I can just have, a wall of, I can have monitors everywhere. I do have some code. Since I do work here most of the time, what I've got is, I know when I'm working on these screens, I have this handy little Firefox plugin called Windows Resizer. And I have, this is a screen size that I use a lot for taking screenshots with Snagit. This is one that I use for editing circulation rules. And so I can just click on that, and it automatically blows open this window into covering these 2 screens that I've got on my left, the left one and the middle one, and it just plugs that screen size in, and it sets the browser there. And so what I've got, this last little piece of jQuery I've got here, what it does is, if the browser window is larger than 2,500 pixels, it's just going to automatically eliminate that left-hand column and make embiggen every part of the column. So let me add that. And so right now I'm in this, let me go back to circulation and find rules. So if I load it and I'm on a normal size screen, it loads like this. And this is the way I usually see it on my laptop, with some columns collapsed, and I can click on this to get the show full width. But if I change my browser size to this one that's covering 2 screens, that didn't do what I wanted it to do because I double clicked it. There we go. If I reload the page and I've already got my browser set for this wide, it opens everything, and then this is what I do when I'm at work. So I've already got it set to eliminate that column and blow open the whole thing, and I can do that just by clicking on my Windows Resizer and setting the screen width. And I've even got it set so that it breaks right where I want it to, so I don't have half a column on one screen and half a column on another one. So, and that Windows or that Firefox browser plugin is just called Windows Resizer. I'm trying to. It's by a company called My Browser Add-on. So if you go to My Browser Add-ons website, it's a really handy thing. I use it a lot for not just for this, but for when I'm taking screenshots for training purposes. It not only will it tell the browser how wide to be, but it'll also set a position for it on the screen.
Nice.
So I can tell it that I have one button that I use to put it in a specific location, and then my copy of Snagit knows that that's where I want the screenshot to come from. And so I can just click the browser resize and click Snagit and take a screenshot from that exact spot. So
cool. Very handy.
But that's the code for the current for the version. This is for Koha 2105. This is all the code that works with 2105. When we upgrade to 2111, If there are any changes to the columns in the circulation table, I'll have to update everything because it's all built on the position of the rows,
Right.
or the position
Yeah.
of the columns in the rows.
And I know that the Koha community, I've seen a lot of tickets on the circulation rules. I know that they're trying to wrangle all that data on that table as best as possible. So I know that there's still plenty of things in the works
Yeah.
to improve that page.
And Nichols has funded a lot of that. It's the oldest development that we still have with Bywater Solutions is a rewrite to the circulation rules interface. And it's been in development since before I got to Kansas. And so yeah, a lot of the changes to the circulation rules have been driven by us, but not driven so very hard because it's a development that started before I got here and I'm not as invested in it emotionally as the people that were here when we actually paid for the development. So.
All right. Well, George, thank you very much for sharing that wonderful code. I'm sure that there are many Koha administrators that are thankful for that piece. That makes it a lot easier to work with the rules. And yeah, I appreciate it so much. I use that code myself when you introduced it over at the Pueblo conference. And yeah,
what I remember about the first time I showed it to people at the 2017 conference in Coeur d'Alene is people actually applauded.
I can see why. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I think Vicky Kemp from Round Rock actually gave me a standing ovation.
Well, thanks again for everyone watching our videos. We love doing our videos, and if you love our videos, we encourage you not just to visit our videos on our website, but to go to our YouTube channel and to make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment on our videos. We enjoy commenting on videos, and if you have questions about something that we didn't answer on a particular topic, we will certainly try to respond to your question and give you an answer. If there are things that you would still like to see in our videos, we would love to hear about it, and we will consider it for future videos. So until next time, oh, George, you were gonna say something?
I was gonna say, if you have something you're already doing and you want to show other people how to do it, let us know. We'll have you as a guest.
Absolutely. All right. Well, until next time.
See you
bye.
later.